appreciate your all coming. Thank you very much. We have a short presentation, and then the program I read said there's time for questions and answers. We'll see what the Ankaran does about that. This first part is called Which Yoga Should I Follow? And it has a history in the various presentations I do. I usually do what we call hit two mangoes with one stone in Hawaii, because we don't want to hit two birds. It's violent. So in Hawaii, we don't hit two birds with one stone, we hit two mangoes with one stone. It gets published as a written article in Hinduism Today, and then we turn it into a PowerPoint presentation after it's been edited. So it's come from a situation where I've been asked the same question a number of times. And in this case, the question is, the Hindu has an interest in practicing, but is confused. You know, what should I practice? What should I be practicing? This person tells me this, that person tells me that. I'm really confused and I don't know what the best approach is. So this is trying to straighten that all out. Is the contrast good? You can see it all right?
Yes.
Okay, I can see you too, so that's good. Well, in this first section, we're exploring the puzzle of the several yogas. And hopefully we'll bring together for you all the pieces, giving you a better overview of what can be a confusing array of interpretations. Should mention one more point, that these presentations are graphically rich, and that's one way we're trying to reach out to our younger generation of Hindus, because they like things that are graphically rich. So we have that understanding there. This is designed for the younger Hindus in mind. Get them to pay more attention. I've seen Hindu children as young as 5 years old watch it very attentively because they loved all the pictures. So that's a start. In modern Hindu texts, the most common summary of Hindu spiritual practice is the four yogas. Karma yoga, the path of action. Bhakti yoga, the path of devotion. Raja yoga, the path of meditation. And jnana yoga, the path of knowledge. Let's start with a short description of each, and then ponder the question, which yoga or yogas should I pursue at this time? Karma yoga can be most simply defined as the path of action. It begins with refraining from what should not be done. Next, we seek to renounce actions motivated solely by selfish desires, to give up those actions that benefit only ourselves. Then comes a desire to conscientiously fulfill our duties in life. An important aspect of Karma Yoga is performing selfless service to help others. When we are successful, our work is transformed into worship. Paramaguru Yogaswami in Sri Lanka captured the essence of this ideal when he said, all work must be done with the aim of reaching God. Bhakti Yoga is the path of devotion to and love of God. Practice focuses on listening to stories about God, singing devotional hymns, pilgrimage, intoning a mantra, and worshiping in temples and one's home shrine. The fruition of Bhakti Yoga is an ever closer rapport with the divine, developing qualities that make communion possible, love, selflessness, and purity, eventually leading to Prapati, self-effacement, and total surrender to God. My Guru Satguru Bodhinatha gave this insightful description. God is love, and to love God is the pure path prescribed in the agamas, a category of revealed scripture. Veritably, these texts are God's own voice, admonishing the samsari, reincarnation's wanderer, to give up love of the transient and adore instead the immortal. How to love the divine, when and where, with what mantras and visualizations, and in what auspicious times, all this is preserved in the agamas. Raja Yoga is the path of meditation. It is a system of 8 progressive stages of practice: ethical restraints, religious observances, posture, and breath control, sense withdrawal, concentration, meditation, and ecstasy or mystic oneness. The focus is on restraining the modifications of the mind so that our awareness, which usually takes on the forms of the mind's modifications, can abide in its purest, simplest, essential form. The restraint of these modifications is achieved through practice and detachment. Our Guru used the term consciousness to explain the modifications of the mind. Consciousness and awareness are the same when awareness is totally identified with and attached to that which it is aware of. To separate the two is the artful practice of yoga. Jnana Yoga is the path of knowledge. It involves philosophical study and discrimination between the real and the unreal. Though the word jnana is derived from the verbal root jnana, which simply means knowing, it has a higher philosophical connotation. It is not only intellectual knowledge, but also intuitive experience. Starts with the former and ends with the latter. Jnana Yoga consists of 3 progressive practices. Shravana, listening to scripture. Manana, thinking and reflecting. Nididhyasana, constant and profound meditation. 4 great sayings from the Upanishads are often the subject of reflection during the Jnana Yoga sadhanas. Consciousness is Brahman. That thou art. The self is Brahman. I am Brahman. Swami Chinmayananda, founder of Chinmaya Mission, taught, the goal of Jnana Yoga is, through discrimination, to differentiate between the real and the unreal, and finally come to realize one's identity with the supreme reality. Having looked briefly at each of the 4 primary yogas, let's explore how they are approached in various schools of thought. It may surprise you to learn that schools you are familiar with define yoga quite differently. This knowledge may help you to choose the yoga or yogas that is right for you to practice at this stage of your spiritual work. First and most widely known approach is to choose one of the yogas based on your temperament. The Vedanta Society of Southern California puts forth this approach on its website. Spiritual aspirants can be broadly classified into 4 psychological types: the predominantly emotional, the predominantly intellectual, the physically active, the meditative. There are 4 primary yogas designed to fit each psychological type. In this approach, Bhakti Yoga is recommended for the predominantly emotional, Jnana Yoga for the intellectual, Karma Yoga for the physically active, and Raja Yoga for the meditative person. However, it is sometimes advised that seekers who are intellectually inclined should stay away from Jnana Yoga. Linda Johnson explains this in her book, The Complete Idiot's Guide to Hinduism. Think you're smart? Surprisingly, Hindu gurus often advise bright people to take up the path of devotion, not Jnana Yoga. That's because very intelligent people often benefit more by learning to open their hearts. Jnana Yoga is not so much for intellectuals as for people with a strongly developed mystical sense and a burning desire for the actual experience of God realization. A second approach is to choose one of the yogas as your primary focus based on your temperament, but to also practice the other three yogas in a secondary way. Swami Shivananda, founder of the Divine Life Society, maintained that though seekers naturally gravitate toward one path, the lessons of each of the paths must be integrated by every seeker if true wisdom is to be attained. The motto of his organization, Divine Life Society, is serve, love, meditate, realize. Reflecting on this concept, we can see that it refers respectfully to Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Raja Yoga, and Jnana Yoga. A third approach emphasizes that one or another of the four yogas is the highest path and should be followed by everyone. It is common for Vaishnava organizations to put forth Bhakti Yoga or devotional practices as the path for all followers. That is to say, Vaishnavism focuses on self-transcending love and surrender as the principal means of liberation. In addition, Karma Yoga is advised as a purificatory preparation for the practices of devotion. Sri Ramanuja states that in preparation for meditation or the contemplative remembrance of the divine, one should engage in Karma Yoga. Some Vedantic traditions put forth Jnana Yoga as the path for all. For example, in the Smarta tradition of Adi Shankara, Karma Yoga is performed as a preliminary sadhana leading one to Jnana Yoga, which is defined, as we mentioned, as meditation based on philosophical discrimination. This idea is found in Shankara's Vivekachudamani. Work is for the purification of the mind, not for the perception of reality. The realization of truth is caused by discrimination, not in the least by 10 millions of acts. A fourth approach is that the practice of Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and Raja Yoga constitutes a prerequisite for taking up Jnana Yoga or experiencing unity with God, enlightenment. Swami Ramakrishnananda of the Vishwadharma Mandalam in New York City wrote, before delving into Jnana Yoga, it is important that a disciple grows and develops in service, or Karma Yoga, in devotion to God, or Bhakti Yoga, and in meditation, or Raja Yoga. Because in studying this philosophy without preparation, one risks transforming oneself into a lit Vedantist, a person who talks about that which he does not truly know. Swami Vishnu Devananda of Shivananda Yoga Vedanta Centers propounded a similar idea. Before practicing Jnana Yoga, the aspirant needs to have integrated the lessons of the other yogic paths. For without selflessness and love of God, strength of body and mind to search for self-realization can become mere idle speculation. Satguru Savaya Subramanya Swami stated, Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga are the necessary prelude to the higher philosophies and practices. He saw wisdom in this fourth approach and described the four as stepping stones, each needed for our spiritual progress. He taught that the four yogas, or padas, are cumulative stages and none should be abandoned as one advances on the path. Here are his words. In Karma Yoga, or the Charyapada, the stage of selfless service, we attend the temple because we have to, because it is expected of us. In Bhakti, the Kriyapada, the stage of worshipful sadhanas, we attend because we want to. Our love of God is the motivation. In the Yogapada, we worship God internally, in the sanctum of the heart. Yet even the yogi, immersed in the superconscious depths of mind, has not outgrown the temple. It is there, God's home on the earth plane, when the yogi returns to normal consciousness. So perfect is the temple worship of those who have traversed the Yanapada that they themselves become worship's object, living, moving temples. We never outgrow temple worship. It simply becomes more profound and meaningful as we progress through 4 spiritual levels. Still confused as to which yoga or yogas to choose for yourself? Of course, if you have a teacher, this is an excellent point of discussion to have with him or her. If you don't have a teacher, then a conservative approach is to work first on Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. These yogas work swiftly with the ego and clear all important barriers to deeper realization. Barriers too many neglect to resolve on the path because ego can be difficult to overcome. The benefits of their practice include a slow purification of the mind, developing a greater humility and selflessness, and a growing sense of devotion and certainty that all our actions are steadily moving us closer to God. Moving on to part 2. Tell you a story about it. It's repeated briefly in one of the slides of the presentation itself, but it happened to me so many times I took it seriously. Hindu man meeting with me in a Quiet monastery or a pilgrimage would say, I'm just about to turn 72, or I have turned age 72. What should I be doing differently? And what they're hoping is, I won't say, is, well, you should give up all your possessions and go off and live in the forest. That's what everyone's supposed to do at age 72. So that's what you should do. So they're hoping I won't say that. And I don't. And what I say is in the presentation. But it's a genuine point. Why is that? Because the definitions of sannyas as an ashrama don't fit our modern times. They were done a few thousand years ago, and the world has changed. So the presentation shows us how the world has changed and gives my opinion on what would be good for those who have turned 72 to do that's different. The second reason for the presentation is talking to university-age Hindus. I find that the concept that our duties change according to our age, which is one of the points of the 4 ashramas, isn't known by this group of people. They haven't been taught. They think duties are the same. What we should do in life is the same. It doesn't change, but it changes dramatically according to our age. And there's 4 different age categories given in the ashramas. So we'll take a look at that next. Rajiv's London classmates are a raucous bunch of teenagers, flush with vigor, carefree, and oblivious to future responsibilities. They see him as a stodgy fellow, smart, handsome, likable, but missing out on the fun. You're only young once, Jeremy chides. Why not party with us? Rajiv lives in a different world, having learned from his parents that life is measured in 4 stages, and that we reincarnate again and again, so we are young many, many times. He saves his energies for the important stuff, building his knowledge and character in preparation for the family stage, which he will enter in his 20s. Disinterested in fooling around, he hopes to win the hand of a cultured girl with whom to share this lifetime and bring children into the world. Rajiv even looks forward to his elder years when, having fulfilled his duties, he will withdraw into his soul nature, the eternal Rajiv, seeking God realization as he lives out this earthly tenure. Rajiv is convinced that each phase of life has a natural purpose and that each is more rewarding than the last. For now, he chooses to study as hard as he can and play a little in between. Rajiv's plan is founded on Hindu tradition, which divides an individual's lifespan into 4 stages or ashramas. This division, called ashrama dharma, is the natural expression and maturing of the body and mind and emotions through 4 progressive stages. So it's not just a reflection of physical age, but it reflects our emotional age and our intellectual age as well. It was developed millennia ago and detailed in scriptures known as the Dharma Shastras, highlighting the fact that our duties differ greatly as we progress. For those in the first ashrama, brahmacharya, age 12 to 24, the primary focus is on studying at school and preparing for professional and married life. The second, grahastha, age 24 to 48, the primary focus is raising a family and fulfilling a career. The third, vanaprastha, 48 to 72, is a time of transition from family and career to one of elder advisor to the younger generation. And the fourth, sannyasa, age 72 onward, is a time in which the primary focus is on religious practices, disciplines, and yogas. The Maitreya Upanishad states, "Pursuit of the duties of the stage of life to which each one belongs, that verily is the rule. Others are like branches of a stem. With this one tends upwards, otherwise downwards." Dr. S. Radhakrishnan, in the Hindu view of life, summarizes the 4 stages of brahmacharya, the period of training, grahastha, or the period of work for the world as a householder, vanaprastha, or the period of retreat for the loosening of the social bonds, and sannyasa, or the period of renunciation and expectant awaiting of freedom, indicate that life is a pilgrimage to the eternal life through different stages. This paradigm is as important and precious now as it was 1,000 years ago, shared by all Hindus regardless of caste or gender. However, the ancient scriptures may not translate perfectly to our modern life. Society has changed too much from how it was in Vedic times in India. For example, it would not work for all 50-year-olds to pick up the life of a forest hermit, begging for their food. That would not be accepted by 21st century society. In some countries, forest hermits would end up in jail as homeless vagrants or trespassers, hungry ones at that. A certain amount of reinterpretation is needed to allow contemporary Hindus to utilize the wisdom of this natural evolution of life. As a starting point, let's review the traditional descriptions. The first stage is brahmacharya, student life, and those in this ashrama are called brahmacharis, those of divine comportment. It was usually a period of 12 years from age 7 or 8 to age 19 or 20. The student lived in his guru's home and learned scriptures, philosophy, science, and logic. He was also taught how to conduct the Vedic fire ceremony. The brahmachari was expected to follow a strict code of conduct, including celibacy, speaking the truth, gentleness in speech, physical austerity such as cold water baths, and eating sparingly at night. Serving the teacher and participating in the household duties were as much a part of his life as formal learning. Second stage, householder life, grahastha dharma, and those in this ashrama are called grahasthas. After returning to his family home, the student was expected to marry and raise a family, earning well by righteous means to provide for his wife and children, support his parents, and give generously to charity. The third stage is vanaprastha, hermit life, and those in this ashrama are called vanaprasthas, forest dwellers. Generally around the age of 50 or 55, after the birth of grandchildren, the Shastras explain, the householder is expected to hand over the responsibilities of the family to his children and retire to the forest. He may take his wife if she is willing to share his life of austerities, or leave her with his sons. He is to continue the daily fire ceremony, observe continence, and devote himself to contemplation on God, all to prepare himself for life's final phase. The fourth stage, defined in Scripture, is sannyasa, renunciate life. And those in this ashrama are called sannyasins. When the forest recluse felt enough inner strength to totally renounce all possessions and lead the life of an itinerant monk, he would embrace sannyasa after entrusting his wife to the care of the children. In this stage, he was to move about constantly from place to place, begging his food and devoting himself to meditation, worship of his deity, and contemplation of scriptures. Looking next at how these ancient descriptions of the ashramas can be updated to better apply in our 21st century information age. My guru considered that in modern times each ashram is a 24-year period, applying equally to men and women. As we mentioned, brahmacharya is the first 24 years, grahastha 24 to 48, vanaprastha 48 to 72, and sannyasa from age 72 onward. The goals of brahmacharya remain the same today, but some of the details may no longer apply, such as living in the home of one's teacher. Intense learning is still the main focus. Ideally, one acquires training in the profession he or she will follow in adult life. On the religious side, the basics of Hinduism are to be learned, along with memorizing mantras and conducting a puja in the home shrine, a practice that has largely replaced the Vedic fire ceremony in modern times. Students should be taught self-discipline, celibacy, and other positive character qualities. The descriptions of the Grahastha ashrama also stand the test of time. The main focus is on marriage, bearing and raising children, serving society through one's career, earning income, taking care of elders, and being charitable. Daily puja is conducted in the home shrine, which ideally the entire family attends. Today, the Grahastha is the primary teacher of Hinduism to his or her children, a duty the Guru fulfilled in ancient times. This ashrama is a busy time of engagement in the world while advancing one's family and profession. It is in defining the vanaprastha stage that need arises to rethink the old definitions. Becoming a forest dweller at age 48 is not an option for most people. Instead, my guru described this as a natural time to help and guide the younger generations as an advisor and elder. Brahmacharyas and grahasthas can actively seek out the advice of vanaprasthas and draw on and benefit from their years of experience. For example, many Hindus in this age group mentor youth through community programs, serve on the boards of trustees or committees of temples, or fulfill leadership roles in secular nonprofit organizations. This is a time of giving back to the community what one has learned while slowly retiring from professional and public life. The parameters of the sannyasa ashrama have also widened. Sannyasi or sannyasins are wanderers. A small percentage of modern Hindus follow the model of taking up sannyasa after retirement, renouncing the world and wandering among the thousands of itinerant sadhus of India, many of whom took up the mendicant path in their 20s and 30s. This pattern of elders taking up sannyasa is okay for single people, widows and widowers, and still works in parts of India where society honors and cares for such holy men and women. But in most areas of the world, it is neither accepted nor understood. As I mentioned, a number of Hindus turning age 72 have asked me what they should do differently in the years ahead. My advice is to simply intensify whatever religious practices they are already observing. If you perform a daily puja for 30 minutes, increase it to an hour. If you meditate daily for half an hour, increase it to an hour. If you go on pilgrimage for 2 weeks once a year, increase it to a month. Once these challenges, once these changes have become a firm habit, one would naturally be inclined to devote even more time to religious practices. After age 72, as the physical forces wane, is the time to turn within and withdraw from worldly involvement. My Guru gave this helpful description of the third and fourth ashramas for modern times. It is during the latter stages of life that family devotees have the opportunity to intensify their sadhana and give back to society of their experience, their knowledge, and their wisdom gained through the first two ashramas. The Vanaprastha ashrama, age 48 to 72, is a very important stage of life because that is the time when you can inspire excellence in the brahmacharya students and in the families to see that their life goes along as it should. Later, the sannyasa ashrama, beginning at 72, is the time to enjoy and deepen whatever realizations you have had along the way. Well, we mentioned a few items about our new book, the Guru Chronicles, but this gives a little more information as to what it's covering. So, of course, it's a spiritual biography of my Guru, Satguru Bodhinatha, and the Gurus that came before him back 2,200 years in the high Himalayas. And we share a short description of the 7 masters of this Guru Parampara, of great Siddhars who are described in this book. First one, back to the source, the oldest Guru we know, Maharishi Nandinada is the first known Guru of this lineage who lived over 2,000 years ago in the Himalayan mountains of India. The Guru Chronicles gives this description of him. In this Himalayan remote, there lived a great yogi known as Maharishi Nandinada, a rare and illumined soul whose inner eye was open to the perfection of the universe, a knower of Shiva, the self-God within. He himself derived from a long line of Satgurus whose names and biographies are lost, and thus he is regarded as the first known preceptor of the lineage known today as the Nandinada Sampradaya, an agamic tradition that Satguru Bodhinatha had discovered in Sri Lanka. Second master of this lineage is Rishi Tirubular. The Guru Chronicles gives this description of him. Having achieved the 8 siddhis and the perfect enlightenment at the feet of the Nada Guru Maharishi Nandinada in the Himalayas, Rishi Sundaranada, later become known as Rishi Tirubular, joined the venerable Nada lineage and later became one of its most celebrated yogis. The first known Satguru of this lineage in recent history was the Rishi from the Himalayas. Little is known of him. One story, though, that is a favorite is described in the Guru Chronicles. Rishi from the Himalayas became a legend when he sat for 7 years in a tea shop without moving. Tea shop was in Bangalore. People came from far and near to witness this miracle, so many that a brass railing was installed to keep the crowds from touching him and disturbing his meditation. Rishi passed the power on to Veylanswami of Bangalore, also known as Muktiyananda. He was a great Siddha and known for performing many miracles. He took the Guru lineage from India to Sri Lanka. The Guru Chronicles gives this description. Veylanswami, famed for his ever-present umbrella, was a judicial officer turned mendicant, an Indian who guided the spiritual life of Sri Lanka, a linguist who preached in the commoner's marketplace and led a renaissance of Saivism among the Tamil people of Java. Next in the lineage is Sage Chelapa Swami, a Sri Lankan initiated by Kadai Swami. He was eccentric in his manner, known for repeating the same mystic utterance and over again for months on end. The Guru Chronicles gives this description. Chelapa Swami was a difficult man to be near, fiery and outspoken, bold and taunting, preferring his own company and often mumbling nonsense. With his tattered veshti and unforgiving manner, it is little wonder only a few strong disciples drew close. Goswami is next. As his name indicates, he was known for his tendency to meditate for lengthy periods. The Guru Chronicles gives this description of his early years in Sri Lanka. As a boy in northern Ceylon, Sadashivan was surrounded by the religion of his community, a strict Saivism that despite foreign rule had survived intact. He would have seen many sadhus as he grew up, the holy mendicants and wanderers whose simple life was centered on God Shiva, whose search was for Shiva consciousness and Subramanya Swami is next, born in America in 1927. He sailed to Sri Lanka in 1947 in search of his guru. There he met Siva Yoga Swami in 1949, who initiated him with a powerful slap on the back. The Guru Chronicles describes this momentous event. At the end of their third visit, Yoga Swami followed his American visitor out to the gate. Coming up behind, he gave Subramanya a powerful slap on the back that nearly toppled the taller youth. It was a spiritual initiation, one so potent that elders looking on stood perplexed. The Guru Chronicles explores the innermost visions of these 7 masters and presents their teachings and writings. It speaks of their achievements as well as their struggles, giving us a glimpse into their sadhanas, their awakened powers, all of this has been captured in art, each story illustrated. We conclude this short introduction to the Guru Chronicles with a quote from Subramanya Swami. As we look at this great line of Satgurus coming from Lord Shiva himself, through Nandinada and countless ones before Nandinada, to Rishi Tirumalar and countless rishis after him, to the Rishi of Bangalore, to Kadai Swami, Chelapa Guru, and Yoga Swami, we see the same spiritual force flowing. We see an undaunted, rare succession of individuals who considered adversity as a boon from the gods, wherein all the accumulated karmas to be wiped away come together in one place to be taken care of all at once. In Sri Lanka and India, men commonly touch the feet and prostrate themselves full face on the ground when they come into the presence of a holy man, no matter when or where they meet him. In this way, they offer their devotion to the divinity or superconsciousness they sense in him. When they come to worship at his ashram, they bring fruit or flowers or some offering to show their respect. This tradition of worship is known in Sanskrit as Guru Bhakti. There are entire scriptures exalting the Guru and his importance on the spiritual path, and chants to the Guru's sung when one enters his presence. By expressing such devotion, people remind themselves powerfully that they are on this earth not for the pleasure of the senses, not for the acquisition of wealth, nor for the storing of knowledge, not for the development of a powerful ego, but for the realization of God within themselves, that ineffable and absolute truth which the mystics in this book held in the palm of their hand. Their stories, their wisdom, their inexplicable ways and profound teachings all lie within the 832 pages of this spiritual biography. That concludes my presentation.